Welcome everyone to a special edition of Hardcore Wrestling Rants. I am your hardcore host Rick Kidd, and I'm joined by the hardcore crew. First, he's the Lord Skelton himself, Joseph Knight. Joe, what's going on?
Not much. I can't wait to see what happens with MJF now after that big rant he did last night.
Absolutely, it's something we want to talk about. And then, of course, we have the incomparable Lance Moss over at Lance Moss TV. Lance, what's shaking, buddy?
Not too much. MJF, I guess you could say, just dropped a pipe bomb.
You know what? That's an interesting point. It could have dropped a pipe bomb. As he came out, and we all thought that he was just going to, he started ranting. And through all this huge rants, he was talking about, hey, I got an issue with the big guy in the back. You know who he is. And he won't come out, and he doesn't want to come out there and talk to me. And he kept on going and going. And he said, goes, I've been here since the dawn of HWR, since the dawn of AEW.
Yeah, if he was here for the dawn of HWR, we'd be all losing our jobs.
Yeah, no kidding. And he said that it seems to be that all the ex-WWE wrestlers get their shots. They're the ones who get the pushes, and meanwhile, we're the ones who helped build, start this company, get pushed back and pushed down and stepped up, and we're just stepping stones. And he started going on another tear where he was swearing like crazy, and he goes, Tony Khan, fire me, fire me, fire me. And once it went right to commercial, it came back, and the commentators didn't say nothing. Nothing was said about it after the fact. Now, I've been gone all day, guys. But what's your first thoughts, Joe, on this whole this rant?
Well, first of all, to be honest, I am surprised as hell that they let him talk so long. If this was supposedly unscripted, that they actually let him go out there and they didn't cut the mic. Because you don't go out on TV or whatever and just start spewing nonsense. And in front of, in front of the boss, in front of nationwide people. Remember, the same thing happened back in the day in WCW, where Eddie Guerrero came back and he was fed up with all the stuff that was going on, poured coffee on himself, and took his bag and walked out while he did a shoot promo in the middle of the ring. And again, there were other things that happened after that, but Eddie stood for the company a little longer. I do have to agree with him on one point. It's the same thing I said from day one. When they start bringing former WWE people into AEW with enticing them with huge paychecks, and they're jumping them ahead of everybody else, that's your problem right there. I see that as a legit conversation, as a legit thing that he can say, because it's the truth. Look at Athena, the former Amber Moon. She just came in already, before she even met anybody else from AEW's roster. She just popped in and immediately wants a title shot at Jade Chagrill's title. Excuse me, guys. I got a call coming in.
Well, Lance, I want to get your get your opinion on this whole debacle.
Well, like Joe said, I was surprised that they let this go as long as they did, if this was not a work. Because some of the stuff, but I've also heard reports that when Punk was coming down to the ring after they cut to commercial, MJF left through the crowd.
Okay, now I didn't see that.
Yeah, I even saw that too in a report.
No, I just read a report right now, and this is from Wrestling Inc. That apparently AEW removed MJF from their roster. He removed, obviously the wins, losses, all the merchandise, everything's gone. So either they're pulling a page out of WWE's book with Sasha Banks and Naomi, or again, he wants to get fired. Tony Khan could very well be fired. Very well fire him.
Well, when I see something like that he could fire him, that's kind of an easy cop out. I don't know. To me, it smells like a storyline because it could have happened. It could happen, and plus, after this incident, we have not heard anything from Tony Khan. He hasn't come and addressed it. Nobody's come and addressed it. Remember, again, all the people in WCW back in the day that were complaining about what was going on backstage, and you did have like Jericho doing the same thing. You did have Eddie Guerrero and the Chris Benoit and all those other folks who were doing the same thing. So this is kind of, I don't know, it feels like a shoot, because if he's going out there and he's going to say something, why let him out there? Say, hey, you ain't going out there and you ain't going to shoot on us. You want to talk behind the scenes, you want to get let go, then you do it back here. Don't go out there. And he did, and he said a lot of shit. And Punk came out, try to address the situation like, hey, you're talking about me, blah, blah, blah. This just smells like a setup for Punk versus MJF.
I don't recall Punk coming out there and talking to him.
No, this was after everything went off the air, right, Lance?
Yeah, this is after they cut to black and went to commercial.
Really?
Yeah, but it was pretty much MJF just. Well, Punk tried to talk to him, but MJF was having none of it, and like I said, left through the crowd with security.
Now, the funny thing is that CM Punk, I find it hypocritical, I'll say, that Punk would try to talk to MJF about how a company's screwing him over and over when he's hot, and, other guys are getting a shot, are getting title shots. I don't know, Joe. Don't you think it's a little hypocritical of Punk?
No, I think it wasn't even regarding that. If this was scripted, he's basically going out there. You got a problem with me? You got a problem with me getting my pay? And if you didn't perform your status or whatever the case may be, I can assure you right now if this was a legit thing, let's throw back the curtain a bit. If this was a legit shoot, Punk going out there probably pissed off and saying, hey, you're throwing my name down, you got a problem. And I'm sure everybody else in that locker room, once MJF went through the back to get his bags or something, I wouldn't be surprised they ain't shitting in his bags and throwing dog fucking crap in his bags, because you just don't do that. And I'm sure if this was legit, then Tony Khan's got a lot to literally try to fight in the locker room, because now every original is going to turn to the former WWE people and says, he's right. We're getting fucked here.
Well, again, that goes back to my point of when CM Punk was in WWE, when he kept on getting stepped over, and he couldn't stand it. Even though he won titles, when he didn't get things his way, he took his ball and went home. It's very similar to what MJF did. The only thing is, MJF never got a title shot.
Well, apparently that might happen now if things go on. Again, it just seems like a work to me because of all the bullshit that's going down. Like, if right now, I bet you if we tune in to Russell, any of the dirt sheets, I'm going to actually pull up one right now while
I'm checking one out. Lance, you know what? Let me ask you that. Let me throw that to you.
Wait a minute. We just got something here. All right. According to SB Nation, MJF is gone from the AEW roster. So the most talked about segment on last night's June 1st Dynamite involved MJF blurring the lines of reality and kayfabe and angrily airing his grievances about Tony Khan not paying him enough. The segment ended with MJF calling Tony, a mark and demanding to be fired before his mic was cut off. Following the weeks of rumors indicating the relationship between Khan and MJF has been legitimately fractured over a contract dispute. Last night's promo from MJF made it clear the whole thing has been turned into a work at this point, if ever a shoot to begin with. So as of right now, they removed him from their official roster page.
Yes, that's what I said. I mentioned that about 10 minutes ago, where they removed all the merchandise and all the roster. So Lance, this very well could be a work, and a lot of people are saying, "Is this a work or a shoot?" And it seems to me that honestly, the way I would say is that MJF had some issues, and maybe somehow they said, "Okay, fine, it's public that they know that he has issues." And maybe he sat down with Tony Khan, and they all said, "You know what? Let's let him throw this ball and see where it goes."
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if this is a work, they're doing it. It's a beautiful work. Because, one, everybody's talking about this. And also, we don't know what happened when Tony Khan and MJF met in Vegas.
Absolutely.
They could be expertly executing this work. Because if it was truly going to scream, "I quit," they wouldn't have let him out there on live TV.
Exactly.
Well, again, like I said, if he had some issues you wanted to air out, maybe you'd say, like drop a pipe bomb, which CM Punk did a little bit less, not as aggressively, or call out people as aggressively. He kind of did to a point, but he knew where to draw the line. I think MJF pretty much just said, "Everybody in the back, all you guys, I can't stand you guys. All you ex-WWE wrestlers, you're the ones who are going to get all the championships. So the AEW originals, you know what, don't even count on getting a title." And to a point, he's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've only had the Young Bucks had the titles for a very short bit. Kenny Omega was one of the longer reigning titles, but he was out more than he was in.
Yeah. Hangman.
And then Hangman Page was the longest running title AE title holder until, of course, Punk had to beat him. So I can see, while MJF's frustration just freaked out, he may have it might have said, "Okay, I'm going to just say a few things," and then the more and more he said it, it might have festered. I don't know about that possibility, Joe.
Again, once that shoot promo was going on, I'm sure they let it go to a point just to see where he was headed. But when he started pointing out pretty much legitimate reasons, and I'm sure that's in back of every original in AEW's minds, how they're being put over by WWE guys. That's kind of and him saying it legitimately just like that. Does he have to be a former WWE guy to get the point across? It smells like something like that, especially saying your rival company. That's that the mic would have went boop, and he would have just hit the mic, tapped it, and screamed his head off, and then walked out. And they would have sent somebody else to get him out of the ring, because they would have cut to black. They would have done something else. There's so many things you could do. It's like, look, we got a situation in the ring. We're gonna turn away from it. Obviously, MJF has gone off on something, so we're gonna go to backstage with Tony Schiavone and the Young Bucks. Something.
Well, that's where they cut to the commercial. And the funny thing is, I really want to know what he said, because if you recall, for maybe 5 or 10 seconds, it was all beeped out. So either he
Yeah.
was swearing his ass off
Yeah,
left and
there
right.
was a report. Lance, maybe you can help me with this, but I did post it on HWR that there was a person who was at ringside who did physically say that, or should I say, yeah, Darian Jordan shared a post, and you could see the segments of MJF over on HWR chat room. That's on the Facebook section. So it's really, him breaking character and talking about, going off on the rant. I'm sure when he started cursing the storm, that's when they said, okay, let's cut this down before we really get in deep shit with TBS executives. So
And,
I think the whole thing could be a work.
Yeah.
Lance, and that is a very fair point. You don't want TBS or Warner Brothers for that, Turner's to start, yelling and swearing, all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, they can get away with a few shits here and there, and maybe a bitch every now and then. But it looked like he was saying fuck a lot.
Yeah, and that's not really a good thing. And again, to this day, I think it's still a question. I mean, a lot of people are still saying, it's a work, but other people are saying they're not sure. There were some wrestlers, if I just had it, that actually tweeted. Velvet Sky was Impact female wrestler. She said the MJF promo is fucking golden. And then Evil Uno of the Dark Order said, "What the hell was that?" Bully Ray said, "Am I the only guy that makes you feel feel money?" So, and then he has MJF and Fire. So it's, again, that's another one who, these are several wrestlers who are loving what he had to say. Evil Uno, that could be playing along with the the work rather, because I don't think you would want to see any of the AEW wrestlers tweeting, bravo for CM Punk. I don't know about that, Joe.
You know what? I don't think they would. I think they would be more legitimately backing MJF on this. If let's hypothetically just say this is a story.
Yeah.
Now you have two ways of going with this. They say he's fired, he's suspended, whatever, and he takes a vacation, maybe a much needed vacation. Okay, that's one way. You can go that route. The second route would be him going and saying, them saying, you know what, if you got a problem with Punk, then obviously we need to settle this right here and now.
But I don't think it's just about Punk. I don't think
it's about everything that's going on in AEW.
Well,
so
let's do a couple of other things. Who else was an AEW champion that was from the ex-WWE? Jon Moxley.
Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho was there from day one, though, and he's been helping the younger roster. He's been working with the younger roster. So I can understand on that point. I still think that at some point that MJF should have beaten CM Punk clean.
Yeah.
But of course he had to do the dirty, the heel win. But again, as of late, all I see is CM Punk looking out for CM Punk and nobody else. And that is not a script or a shoot or whatever. That's my honest opinion. And I think that's pretty much a part of what disgusts MJF.
Yeah, so. You know what? The thing is, if it's a shoot, they're channeling that really damn well. That's the thing about shoot interviews. He can be hitting from home, but we don't know what really goes on behind the scenes. So this could be, could it be a work? It could be. You know what? And I guarantee you, if it's a work, then he must have the approval of the pretty much Tony Khan to go out there and legitimately voice his anger like that, because you're taking a big you're taking a how can I put this? You are taking a big chance when you put yourself out there and have someone badmouth your company. And by doing that, you don't know if that's going to hit or miss. And that's a big thing right there, because you really don't know. You really don't know what this if this is going to pan out. Would they say, "Oh, look, AEW is a toxic work environment. I ain't fucking going there." That could be one thing. So it really, this is, again, all of this is going to fall on how well this plays off. Could he go on to the next level and they either fire him, or this says, you know what, you got a problem with me? Punk could say, you got a problem with me. You know what? Let's settle in the ring. You know, let's throw it out the window. Let's have a real fight. Let's get in the ring, and blah blah blah. Let's put the title on the line too. And I can see MJF. You know, if it's a shoot, he'll say, "I want your pay as well. Boost my pay up to that
Well,
level."
that was the original issue at hand, because all the AEW starters, they were getting between $40,000 to $70,000 a year. I think even Cody Rhodes was getting paid somewhere in that margin, maybe a little bit more because he was an executive. Um, but now all these ex WWE wrestlers are coming in; they're getting paid significantly more, much more. They're not really. The article I'm reading does not put specifically how much that Christian, Mark Henry, Malachi Black, CM Punk, and other names, but they're clearly making more money. So obviously that's another issue. And you said it, Joe, that hey, these guys from the WWE, they're big names. No matter wherever they go, they're gonna get more. They're gonna want more, and they're gonna get paid more. Hello?
Oh, yep, absolutely. I know, I'm here. Um, again, I'm pondering this and just looking at everything over. I'm checking other sites, validating, all of this. And I have to say, honestly, that unless Tony Khan comes out and says something within the next couple of days, because we have Rampage coming up.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Correct.
So if he doesn't come out and say something, or if he comes out and says, "I have sat down with MJF in a locked room, and in order for him to appease him, he will get a title shot and he will get the exact same money." They'll do something to entice him that's okay. He's getting what he wants. Now, if he doesn't want this, his contract is gone. He's done. So they won't put it on CM Punk's head. They'll put it on MJF's head. And then they'll probably set it up. Well, MJF will says, finally, it just shows that you're not a fucking fanboy, and take the opportunity. Because if this was all real legit, I'm going to put it like this. If this was really legit, then he would have been fired a long time ago. Because we've seen the same thing happen with, how about this? Remember this scene, guys? When Ric Flair made his return to WCW and he had a heartfelt return, and you got Arn Anderson, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, and whatever that fucking former football player was.
Mongo
McMichael. They were all in the ring, and Flair was like in tears talking, but he was bad-mouthing Eric Bischoff and WCW, and Bischoff came out and says, in like regular clothes, saying, "You're fired, you're done." And he did. And he was, let go, and then they had to put in moderation to bring him back. So if we don't see that by Friday, then this is a pure work. This is a pure thing that they're just playing off to kind of feed off. Because let's look at this. This is a great storyline.
Yes.
Which is tied to legitimate reasons. You are working for a company, another individual comes in from a company that's more successful and immediately steps over you and takes your spot or takes a supervisory spot. This is something that happens in every legitimate business where an individual comes in from another company, even if he has the credentials or not, comes in, boop, and takes that spot from a deserving original who's worked his ass off. And then we all know that in order to entice a former WWE guy, you got to give them a lighter schedule so they don't hurt themselves. You got to give them more money so they stay in your company. It happens on the indie scenes, and it happens on the main promotions. It's never going to change because WWE wrestlers are the biggest things around, and it's the only way to boost your company.
Well, Lance, now Joe made some fair points. Ex-WWE wrestlers, everybody knows them. But AEW is going on 4 years now, so we are starting to know who the AEW originals are. Now, Impact made a mistake by doing the same thing, by bringing WWE wrestlers over, signing huge checks, and saying fuck off to the Impact originals, referring to Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, and countless a few others.
Hey, you got Robert Roode, you got James Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct, Lance. So now let me ask you, Lance, even though these wrestlers are getting bigger money or whatever, do you think that Tony Khan's making a mistake by bringing them in with more money and getting more success?
Yes, because it's the same damn thing that happened, like I said, in Impact. Hell, WCW. If you don't keep your other stars happy, you're doomed to Destination America.
You know what? And that's a very fair point. Now let me ask you, this Lance, I want to ask you, because Joe brought up another interesting point, is that he thinks that Tony Khan's got to come out on Friday. Tony Khan's not the type of person who comes out in the ring and addresses a personal issue. So I don't see that happening regardless. Do you see him maybe Dynamite, or would you think he'd do something like a press conference?
Dynamite at least, or at most, but I could see what they've done. If this is legit, I can just see him doing a Twitter post like he's done for many of the people whose contracts they've let expire, and basically give MJF the best of luck in his future endeavors.
And you know what? That's a fair point. That's actually I'm gonna go check on Tony Khan's Twitter page. So Joe, do you have any other thoughts on this matter?
Yep, I could tell you one thing, which is if you want here, if this is just going through my mind while I'm listening to you guys, is number one. Here, the greatest thing about this, you're actually getting people talking about your product. Okay, it's not really all negative because, hey, guess what? They're talking about the product here. Everybody's talking about, ooh, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen? Is this going to be something different? Are we seeing another pipe bomb? You know, we've seen this same thing happen multiple times where we've said it. We can't wait for the next pipe bomb.
Yeah.
Well, the pipe bomb just fell, and we're like, he just did a pipe bomb, you know, and that in itself is something we've all waited for. And it took MJF, who's the biggest heel in the company right now. Okay, yeah. He is legitimately the biggest heel in the company. And he went in there and he is literally venomly putting out stuff that everybody already knows, because this we all know this for a fact. He's going in there and he's legitimately voicing his opinion and saying, "Hey, this is what's really going on." If this is the work, it's the greatest work of all time, because they are. This is something. If Tony Khan could have done, he could have done this. Grab everybody quietly, put them in a room without the media, without the backstage marks, without Meltzer, without whomever, and put them separately. Don't put MJF in the room. Put the workers themselves and say, "Listen, we're going to do this," and explain it to them. You're under contract. You cannot tell anybody, and make sure you express that to everybody or a select group. Because if you feel you're going to have leakage from the little jobbers, then don't use them. But for everybody else, you bring everybody in this room, you tell them straight. Everybody says, "Okay, fine." Boom. Put them aside. Now you're bringing Punk into a room. This is what's going to happen. He's going to do your pipe bomb. Okay, great. Let's move on with MJF. The biggest heel in the company. The guy who's done everything in this company. And we've said he's never walked away with a title. He's being overstepped by WWE guys. He's got a legitimate reason to hate the company and to hate former WWE guys. What a story that he goes in there and beats Punk to become a world champion.
That's a very fair point. And I noticed I went on Tony Khan's Twitter page, and 2 hours later he was advertising for Rampage. So he didn't even mention it. I looked at all of his past things, even since before. Not a word.
Yep.
So,
another thing is too. One more thing, Rick. You mentioned Tony Khan wouldn't go out there to counter what this guy says. Oh, of course he will go out there. Here's a guy that constantly fucking reminds everybody, "I got a special announcement next week."
Yeah, but that's more publicity. If this is a real work, Tony Khan's gonna just let it go and whatever, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is my perspective. I would think, again, like you said, fine, we're just gonna cut him off. He's gonna take a couple 2-3 week vacation or whatever. We're gonna cut all his merch off, and then somewhere down the line they're gonna say that CM Punk's out to face a mystery partner, and a mystery opponent, and who walks out but MJF. People would go fucking ballistic.
Oh yeah, and he would say, "I finally got it. I finally got the contract I want, and I fucking got a chance to fight you, CM Punk. I beat you so more times than anything else in this business." So,
and you know what? I wouldn't want to see it. I wouldn't want to see it on pay-per-view. I want to see it walk in and say, "No, not a pay-per-view, not a Revolution, not Forbidden Door. Tonight, main event. Be ready."
Oh
Punk.
yeah,
you know
it could be. Rick, also Terry on our Twitch channel says, "Just had me thinking now. Has CM Punk co-orchestrated this with MJF? Like helped MJF with that rant?" That's a legitimate question.
That is a very good question. You know what, Lance? I'm going to post that over to you first.
Possibly, because if you notice, he would not look at Punk when he left.
Yeah, okay, but again, you could even still say he's not going to look at Punk regardless. I mean, that could have been Tony Khan. That could have been anybody else, and he probably would have walked off. When you're pissed off at somebody or pissed off at something, you're just going to stomp off, and you just get headlights. You're just looking straight ahead.
Yeah, and the same thing, if he was pissed off with CM Punk because he's getting passed over, then obviously that's not the person you want to get in the ring with, because the first thing you're going to do is punch him in the mouth.
Yeah, or even that, I would just looked at it. If that was the truth, he would look at Punk and just flipped him off and walked off, and But again, I honestly think Punk might have given him a couple of cliff notes here or there. That's very, very possible. Do I think Punk helped him orchestrate it from beginning to end? Was he and one of the guys that is in his ear? I would not. I'd have to say no. Not maybe just towards the end when he went out for the shoot. Punk gave him a few runs, and that's about it. But honestly, MJF, he's a great talker. I don't think he needed Punk. Should Punk decide to stick his nose in there, I don't know if he did or did not. But I think he could have pulled it off regardless. It was probably, again, a pipe bomb. We've not seen a pipe bomb in almost, 12 years, Lance?
Almost 11 years to the day. It's like a couple of weeks shy of exactly 11 years.
How coincidental of that, huh?
But Punk didn't leave. The next week on Raw, Punk was on Raw.
Yeah, but
a few months later he did.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Same thing. MJF really hasn't left yet because he hasn't been fired officially.
Yeah. But right he's not in the roster, and there's no merchandise. Yeah, that right there. Go ahead, Lance.
Boss, they could have just had their IT do that in about 5 minutes.
That's true. Very, very true. He could still very well.
Low too, and then they put him back on.
So does that mean that Sasha Banks and Naomi are still with the company WWE?
Contractually, yes, because their contracts are frozen. They are still WWE talent, and they're not allowed to do anything. In fact, there was also on my rumors report that I put down, you see that they still haven't done anything with them, but they're officially WWE, but they even canceled all their flights. So they're sitting in the corner right now, or at least Naomi is.
Yeah.
Freaking Sasha's doing her own world thing. But
I don't think she could do any other business type of work.
Other than, do you want fries with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not even that, because it's an appearance. If she goes in anywhere and she's recognized, that's Sasha Banks. And if she tries to capitalize on that, I can imagine her walking to a McDonald's. Hi, I'm Sasha Banks. I'm going to be general manager.
It was more of a jokingly question, but regardless, I want to get back.
Skill level, she could have been a McDonald's worker. No offense to McDonald's workers.
Hey, I take offense to that. But anyway, all right, guys. As you know, so all right, we're gonna do final thoughts or final question, and Terry is in the chat room. He can even answer. This is my question. How long before MJF comes back? Joe, I'll give you a thought to you.
Next pay-per-view.
That's Forbidden Door.
Yeah.
And I would not be surprised after Punk beats his Japanese challenger, who is legitimately one of the best Japanese champions. He's worked many places. So once that hell of a match goes down, I can see somebody come up from over the rails and beat the hell out of Punk, and it turns out to be MJF. Pulls off the beard, pulls off the hat. It's MJF.
That's a possibility. Okay, Lance, your thoughts.
During that match, and since since MJF comes from that indie scene, it wouldn't be a beard and a hat. He'd have on like a ski mask, hit the ring, and then beat the hell out of him during the match. And then next night or the next time on Impact, you didn't deserve to represent this company. I've been here since the very beginning, blah, 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 so on and so on.
Well, guys, I'm going to trump you on that one. I think it's going to be after the Dynamite after Forbidden Door. Because Forbidden Door is in a couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the exact date. So that would give him... Say again?
The 26th, I think.
Okay, so fine. That gives MJF the 2 or 3 weeks off that he needs for whatever reason. And then, maybe when Punk's on the mic and just says, you know what, I've defended the belt or whatever. Um, but I think it's going to have to be one of those, oh my God, shocking moments. I don't think it's going to be at a pay per view. Certainly not a Forbidden Door. I don't see that happening. I think that's going to be too soon. I think it's going to be after Forbidden Door.
Well, one thing Terry says in the chat room, I agree. He agrees with me. Any longer past the next pay-per-view, and it wouldn't be worth the effort they just put into it. So, again, if this happens during or after that Punk's match, and again, you don't have to have MJF come down the ramp. Then we all know it's a work. He has to come by at least sneaking in through the crowd and attack Punk while he's either separating, and then berate him right there, grabbing the mic and berate them.
See, that's the thing. That's
cut the mic. I will cut the mic, send security after him, because technically, quote unquote, he's not supposed to be on the roster. He shouldn't be at a show. That would have cemented, and Punk says, I want that bastard back in the company. I want to fight him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that would be, honestly, I think it's somewhere there'll be this storyline that Tony Khan and MJF had reconciled for one reason or another, gotten his raise. Again, this is all like behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And then CM Punk again, after Forbidden Door, says, well, gee, I don't know who my next opponent is going to be. You know what? I could challenge anybody out back there because, and don't have MJF rant. Just have him walk to the ring. Pissed off, just his look. Don't freak out like a little kid. He already did that. That worked. It was a great pipe bomb. But for him to come back very quietly and just look him in the eye and say, tonight, me and you. No excuses.
Nope, wouldn't work. Wouldn't work, because then it just shows, okay, so after all your rants and hatreds and spewing, you're just going to walk to the ring and look at the guy and says, tonight? Gee, yeah.
Well, then how about that? All right, then let me flip it then. Then let's say have Tony Khan say, well, Tony Khan say that, do what you would say, is have him come to the ring with Punk and says, well, tonight, you're going to have an open match. You're going to have a match tonight. And Punk is going to be like, I'm ready. I don't care who it is. He goes, well, all right. I just want to let you know. All right, well, here he is. And then just have CM Punk come down and then Tony Khan quietly leaves the ring.
Again, it's a very sketchy thing. If you're legitimately pissed off at someone, you're going to do something about this. And you're going to try to make it as legit as possible. If you hate, let's say, and this is, again, this is all factual. If a worker is overstepped by a superstar, let's put it that way, and we've seen this could turn into a really big storyline where ex-WWE versus AEW originals. So, and that could be like a big pay-per-view. But again, we have to see what Tony does this Friday, tomorrow night. Rick, if we can, I would like to also post up say something too. Brian Pillman Jr.'s mother, Melanie Pillman, passed away. So I think, my condolences to Brian Pillman Jr.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Again, that was another wrestler that came in, the Elite, the Varsity Blondes. And they kind of got looked over because FTR came over. Now, don't get me wrong. I love FTR. Great tag team. But, all these WWE wrestlers are coming in, and they're getting the push while the other AEW wrestlers or we'll call them the elites, are getting pushed aside. And, sooner or later, that's going to have to, one way or another balance out. Say again?
That's going to be the WCW effect, where people start leaving and the former WWE people run the asylum. That's what we're seeing now. And it's not really seeing it because they do give some of the talent chance. But look at Daniel Bryan and Moxley, how they just destroyed, was it the Private Party? Okay, gee, nicely putting over that team. You could have picked a jobber team to could have done that. You know, they could have. You've got what is he? Keith Lee, who's just walked in and he's getting in big matches. You know,
He's not really getting big matches, but I see where you're going. But I'll agree with you.
Because was that triple tag team match really that big?
Not really.
Yep. And you saw that the 10-man tag.
The 10-man tag was just chaotic.
Yeah, but you saw it here. In order to make it equal, they had to give the Bucks that win. But again, look who it is. It's the Bucks, the vice presidents of the company.
But you can use the vice president type. Like throw that sticker on it. But they still have been with AEW since day one.
Yeah,
absolutely. But they are the high tier people.
And if they went the low tier and got the same thing, would that make any difference?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I'm saying if they were non-executives and they got that title run, would that make any difference?
If they had, the dog's barking back there, if they had given it to a different team for that 10-man tag to go up against Matt Hardy, Christian, and the Jurassic Express, it would have made more sense. It would have been a better deal and have the other team go over.
Well, real quick, let me cut you off. Okay. The Young Bucks themselves, even when they came into AEW, they didn't get the titles right away. In fact, they got, they put other teams over and over before they finally got their tag team run. So they didn't want to be the ones that walked in and say, you know what, well, we're executives, we're going to take the titles. They didn't want to be the Jeff Jarretts.
No, absolutely. But they got the win on that high tier match. It's like I said, it's devil's advocate. You either do it or you don't do it, and it's going to cost the company, some sort of leeway. And over at the chat room, Terry says, "Here's another thought: the big pipe bomb. Might this also be part of a larger plan to populate both AEW and Ring of Honor with rosters of new folks? Could MJF then show up on Ring of Honor and say it's his company show nowadays and screw AEW?"
They don't have a TV deal yet.
Huh?
They don't have a TV deal yet.
Yeah, they don't have a TV deal yet. But again,
but they are house shows.
That is viable, but I don't think so. Let's say this whole thing's 100%. Let's say that that he's been released from his contract and he's fired, and he wants to head over to WWE. Let's ponder that possibility. Do we really want to think that the WWE would bring him in after the rant and telling the whole company that you suck and fuck you and this and that?
Oh, hell yeah. It's money. It's all about money.
But for how long?
For a year. Look at Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes.
He's the flavor of the month.
WWE in reversed. He badmouthed the company, opened his own company to compete directly with them, and yet he turned around and went back to the same company saying, "Look, I just proved my point. Give me a belt."
Well, he was also in New Japan Pro Wrestling before he went to AEW. He was in there for about 2 years.
That was a feeler before he went. He was honing his craft. And then he built AEW to a successful company, mind you. So him returning to WWE just looks at Vince and probably says, "See, I did a better job away from here. Now I'm here. Give me my due." And you could say the same thing that's happening in WWE. Cody Rhodes' return. Oh my God, he's getting the wins. He's beating Seth Rollins like a redheaded stepchild. He's going to move in. He's probably going to take Roman Reigns' title while Roman goes and take a break. This is the same thing that happens. It's going to go back and forth. Now, if let's say MJF is legitimately fired, and this is a true true, not work. This is a true thing. And he gets fired. He goes to WWE. They welcome him there. He will be the flavor of the month or the year, where they'll let him badmouth this former company, not specifically saying the former company, but saying, I came from there and I'm here now. I guarantee you he'll be given scripted promos, which he might not do well, because when you shoot a promo, it's from the heart. You're putting your words into it. I can see them giving him a script. Oh, Jesus, I am MJF. Dot dot dot, and it doesn't have the same impact as a free reigning promo. So what's going to happen is he'll get his shots, he'll get his stuff, and he might win the Intercontinental title, and then he'll be reduced to job, and down the line. I guarantee you, by next year, by the close to the end of next year, Cody Rhodes is going to also start getting job by the name talent.
Well, I would think that WWE would be smart and be a little bit longer, because most wrestlers that come back have a 1-year opt-out. So they could probably, if they want to keep Cody, they're going to let him go surpass that 1 year and keep him happy, and then say, okay, well, now we can chop him in the fashion that he was talking about.
Exactly. And he either does two things: swallow his pride and stay there. He can win the belt, and that could be the accomplishment he always wanted to do. Hey, I won a huge belt in a major company. Now I'm leaving. What my dad couldn't do, I just did. Because Dusty did compete in the original WWF with the polka dots, and he was part of the original WWF when he fought superstar Billy Graham, who was then
I remember,
champion. So this is a legitimate way of doing things. So we could see this happen, and Cody did win the NWA version of the NWA title that his father had. So while it wasn't as impactful today as it was in the 80s, he won that belt. But what a feather in his cap would be if he won the WWE belt, E/F, which is the same lineage. So that, and then after that, he could say, okay, I'm done. I made my money, won what I wanted to win. Thank you, Dad. I'm going back. I'm leaving. Taking time off. That's what will happen.
Yeah.
So, here is Terry's comments. He says, "Yeah, what do WWE care? They just need new guys ASAP." And he says, "I mean, look what at EC3 when he went back to WWE. So
he was there for about a minute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, but EC3 was never money. He's worse than Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett's a superstar compared to him.
Oh my God, that man's behind arena events.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So, all right, guys, we're gonna wrap up this edition of Hardcore Wrestling Rants. I want to thank again Terry Boyer for joining us in this for this special podcast. We are over in the HWR chat room in the group section. Joe, I know that you are over at Skull and Realms. Tell everybody about it.
Absolutely. Everybody check me out at Scoldress Realm. That's due to hashtag Scoldress Realm. I do games yesterday and today from console to PC. Make sure you check me out. I am also on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram. I'm also on Twitter at Scoldren. And before we go off the air, you want to check out BC Games and More. BC and Mrs. A are live every either Saturday or Sunday night on Facebook around 7:30 at night. So if you want to check them out, tell them that we sent you, and they'll probably hate you for that. If you want some HWR t-shirts, go to SoldiersRealm.live and go hit that merch button, and you'll see t-shirts from me, from Rick Head, HWR, from Zoe Nightshade, who needs to be booked, guys. If you're a promoter in the Kentucky area, book this girl. She's a really good talent. And the incomparable.
All right. Enough of the promos. Come on, move on. Lance Moss TV. Tell everybody about it.
Every Tuesday night, we go live on Lance Moss TV and Friends. I never know who's going to show up. And basically, we shoot the shit for about hour and a half, 2 hours. Usually when NXT's on, watch us, and you'll be more entertained.
All right. So, for the hardcore crew, I'm your hardcore host, Rookhead, saying, we'll see ya when we see ya.
Buy the shirts!
Terry likes the show.